afternoon and welcome back to Girded with Truth. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are continuing our series on the upward journey. Today we're talking about leaving behind the old. Yesterday we would have touched base on some things when we spoke about when up looks like down. But sometimes after we have declared the promise, there is some practical things that we have to do, not just as Christians, but as people who are moving forward in life as we pursue this upward journey in Christ. Genesis chapter 45 verses 20 to 21 says, "Also regard not your stuff, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours." And the children of Israel did so. And Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandments of Pharaoh, and gave them provision for the way. So God is saying, don't study the things that you had. Focus on what I am giving to you. He said, don't study anything you have. If I tell you pack up your bags and leave, I have already made provision for you. It said that they got provision for the way. So God has already laid aside provision for us for the way, which means for the journey. So in this upward journey, God has already put provision at key parts of the journey for us. But we have to first regard not our stuff. We first have to put aside everything that we once knew, everything that we once had, and leave behind the old to get into what God has for us. He says, all the land of Egypt is ours, and not just the land, but the good of the land. So God has reserved the best for us, but we have to walk in obedience and go towards what He says in this upward journey. It may be a relationship that God is asking you to leave behind. It may be an attitude or a habit. It may even be a business opportunity or a company. But God is saying, don't worry about it. Leave it behind. It could be your own home that you have lived in for many years. But guess what? God is saying, I have already made provision for you. Don't be afraid to leave it behind, because I have already reserved the best of the best just for you. And Peter also had to realize that obedience was better. He also had to realize that God was instructing him in the right way. Luke chapter 5 verses 4 to 6 says, "Now when he had left speaking, and said unto Simon, Launch out into the deep, and let down your nets for a draught. And Simon answering said unto him, Master, we have toiled all night, and have taken nothing. Nevertheless, at thy word I will let down the net. And when they had done this, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake." We are not even talking about the overflow right now. We are talking about that simple instruction to launch out into the deep and let down their nets. We are talking about listening to the voice of God and leaving behind what was old. And here, Simon had to leave behind his mentality, his fisherman's mentality. Now his mindset, his mind would know what fishing looks like, but he had to put away or leave behind that old way of thinking and walk in obedience to what Jesus was saying in this moment. And it is his obedience that brought the increase. So sometimes what God is saying to do does not make sense. It may not even make the slightest bit of sense. But you know what? He is not looking for you to make sense of anything. He's looking for you to walk in obedience. And the sooner we obey him, is the sooner we will get the breakthrough. They toiled all night, nothing happened. But just as they were about to give up, just as they had already given up, as a matter of fact, they were ready to go home, Jesus said, launch out into the deep. Sometimes we're at a place where up looks like down. Sometimes we're at a place where there isn't even a path in the Red Sea to go further. But guess what? God is saying it may not make sense, but I will make a way. He is saying all you have to do is leave behind what was and enter into what is. And the Apostle Paul said it perfectly. Philippians chapter 3 verses 13 to 14 says, Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. So the Apostle Paul is reminding us that we have to forget the things that were past. God doesn't want us to hold on to the old. He does not want us to hold on to the old methods, the old habits, the old mentalities. The reason why he delivered the next generation and not the older generation is because he needed to use new methods, and so he needed new mentalities because the older generation was not letting go of what they knew. So today, God is saying, forget everything that you once knew. He has something else planned. He has a new method, a new mindset for you, a new heart, a new home. Everything He wants to give you is new because the good of the land of Egypt is yours. So today, I encourage you to press towards the mark of the high calling in Christ Jesus. Now, we have to not just leave behind what was, but we have to refocus our direction on something. So we might forget the old habit, we might let go of the old habit, but we have to develop a new habit. But the new habit have to be pursuing Christ. The new habit have to have a level of obedience that when God speaks to us, we can clearly hear Him and go towards what He is saying. So let us let go of the old. Let us leave behind the old. Let us forget everything that was so that we can enter into what's next. It is an upward journey we are on, and the only way to go up is to move forward. So let us go on this journey together with God and with each other. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.